Okay, welcome to A Long Time Ago. My name is Adam, and with me, as always, is Martin. How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going well? How about you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Only took us two goes to get the intro this week, so that's pretty good going.
Yeah. Well, some weeks it's good, some weeks it's not. And this week it wasn't, so I had to start again.
To be fair, it's usually me who messes it up. So,
well, I don't know. Right, so this week we're going to move on, as we spoke about last week, in your challenge, making the grade. If anyone hasn't seen that one or listened to that one, go back and find out what Martin's doing with his collection. But this week we're going to talk about my collection, which is quite exciting stuff for me. It's something completely new and different. Obviously, you can see, well, anyone watching can see that I've made a start to the collection.
it's a burgeoning collection, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I've spoken about it before, how, I think money for these things is going to be tricky, but it's something I'm quite keen to get on and do now. And Martin's been hassling me for God knows how long to actually get started on something. So I figured I should probably get into it. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think pestering and bothering you is particularly fair. I know that's probably the excuse you're using for the wife, but
yeah, okay. So it's not so much pestering and bothering me, but it's gentle encouragement here and there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think you should only collect if you're interested in collecting. I don't think you should do it just for the sake of it. And
No.
I think, I'm sure you'll get onto it, but the thing you have chosen to collect is something that really interests you in Star Wars.
Yeah, and it comes from going back again to another video that we did. It was our choices for what we'd like to see as TV shows, really. My selection was Bounty Hunters. I'd love to see a TV show about all the different bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe. So that leads us on nicely to what I'm looking to collect, and that is the Bounty Hunters of the vintage collection. Well, I suppose you've got to ask the question why. And as I've said, I really, really like the Bounty Hunters. You get a real sort of eclectic mix of different sort of species in there, and you get droids, and it's a real good mix in there. So that's one of the reasons behind it. You know,
They're great characters, the Bounty Hunters as well. I mean, they're most of them, with the exception of perhaps Boba Fett, and the odd ones that you see in the Clone Wars, they're quite mysterious still. But the things that they do come up with, especially in the George Lucas era, I would say each one of them that's ever seen on screen, whether that be animated or live action, you're instantly, when you see them, you're like, I want to know more about them.
Yeah, and obviously we got to see a little bit of it in the Mandalorian, in series 1, because the amount of bounty hunters that were in that was unreal. And actually, I want to go back and watch that first. Well, I want to go back and watch all of the Mandalorian because it's awesome. But especially those first few episodes where you see the different variations of bounty hunter. You get the IG-11, you get Mando himself, and whoever else was in that bar. Do you remember the bar scene?
Yeah. Oh yes, Grief Karga, wasn't he? He was running
right.
the Bounty Hunter Guild. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I should add him to the collection. He's not in there, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I think Grief Karga in the vintage collection, I think his figures after when he becomes, is it governor of the planet?
Okay, yeah.
So I don't think it's when he's actually, in charge of the Bounty Hunter Guild, but I'll have to double check that.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Um, my next thing then was why the vintage collection. Uh, and for me, I think I love the look of the vintage collection. It's a real stylish thing, and it obviously harps back to the original Kenner line. And that's, that's the original and best, really, isn't it? Like
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was the first thing that came out.
yeah, I mean, there's a reason that lines like Power of the Force, Power of the Jedi, Episode One, Episode Two, all those lines of Star Wars figures, that they're probably worth less now, most of them, than they
Yeah.
were when you paid for them. Whereas the vintage collection, not that you're interested in reselling them, but
Mm.
they hold their value, and they sell out extremely quickly, as we found out
Yeah.
on was it
It
yesterday, I
was
think, when the
yesterday.
new
Yeah.
the new Boba Fett's came out.
Yeah.
They're extremely popular, and they're popular for a reason, because they're great looking figures. The card backs look fantastic
Mm.
for the most part.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they're not, well, I mean, then I suppose when they're on the card, the bubble on the card, they are a similar sort of size to, I don't know, say the Power of the Force and things like that.
oh yeah, they're all 3 3/4 inch figures, right?
Yeah.
All harkening right back to the original figures. Yeah,
But even like in comparison to the Black Series, which are 6-inch figures, right?
6 inch figures. Yeah.
They seem a little bit more manageable. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know.
They're definitely cheaper. That's for sure.
What's that?
Um,
The Black Series or,
no, the vintage
oh, is
collection.
it? Mm.
Yeah, they're much cheaper, but well, they're cheaper at the moment. But the way prices are going up at the moment, you never know. But I think in terms of storage and being able to display your figures, the vintage collection gives you the option of being able to see the figure
Mm.
as well as the card back. Whereas, understandably so, they're trying to get rid of plastics in figures now. So the Black Series, I think in the future, if not already, they're just going to go to a box that you're not going to see the figure in, and the figure's
Yeah.
just going to be inside of it.
So
So
there's a couple in the vintage collection like that at the moment, isn't there?
there is, yeah, there's Boba Fett and
Yeah.
an Ahsoka figure and a
Mm.
few
That's
others.
right.
Mm.
Yeah. Which, I think we've spoken about that before. It kind of defeats the purpose of what a lot of people are buying them for,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's going to be Bounty Hunters and it's going to be vintage collection. Now, I do plan to put a cap on the budget,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I haven't worked out yet. I want to go through every one that I intend to collect
Mm,
and try and put like the price that I want to pay for it.
yeah,
And then the goal is obviously going to be to come in under budget.
yeah,
So we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
Because I've taken a look through some of the figures and they are not cheap.
No,
So
there's a few out there that yeah, yeah. Well, you never know. You never know.
yeah,
You never
yeah.
know. Don't never say never.
Well, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to get lucky in some places and find some
Mm,
cheap ones, but we'll see. I don't know.
yeah. Well, we've
So
been discussing a few places, haven't we, recently, where
yeah.
that we found that are absolutely great places to go if you're
Mm,
if you're looking to not pay over extortionate eBay prices. There's a couple of good fan sites and a couple of good groups on is it Facebook we found?
Facebook, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I found a
where
few
yeah they've
that I'm
done
now a
they're
part of.
yeah, no, and they seem to be really full of real fans who aren't scalpers, and all they want to do is get a fair price for the
Mm,
figure. Um, but when we do the next episode of my making the grade collection, there's a little story that I'll just mention in that about how these Facebook groups are different to eBay.
yeah.
But yeah, so there are ways of trying to find these figures at a better price than you can find them on eBay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because I think also last week you said how, people bump up that price to cover the eBay fees and everything like that. So
Mm,
yeah, it's part and parcel of it, I suppose.
yeah,
Um, so before I get into the actual list that I intend to collect, I was just going to mention the ones that I considered collecting.
Yeah.
Stormtrooper variants was one of them. Because
Well,
I thought it would
not
be
just the
quite good.
vintage collection, or just in general.
Just the vintage collection.
Oh, right, okay. Well, that wouldn't be so bad, but
No,
bit
but
boring
there
though, I
are. I
think.
mean, yeah, but more than anything, I'd just like to see the differences between them throughout the films and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy under the handle of Noob Collector on Twitter, and obviously, as you know, I catalog the vintage collection on our
Yeah.
Twitter account every single day. And I think we're up to 176 now, VC
Wow.
176, and every day without fail, he puts a little comment about that figure, and
Yes.
it's some of it's really fascinating stuff.
He
And
tends to have
whenever
every single one of them, doesn't he?
he
So
does. He has
it'd be
more than
great to
one, and
see.
he
Yeah,
opens them
more
up.
than one version. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
He has
But
some on card and some off. Yeah.
that's right.
Some
Yeah,
open.
craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He must have loads of figures.
Yeah.
And whenever a stormtrooper comes up, he always gives some great information about the different model that they've brought out. This is the newer model, or this is a much bit more of an improvement on the stormtrooper than the
Yeah.
previous mold.
Yeah.
So
He
yeah, I
seems to
think
know his stuff. He's not
he
much of a
does.
noob, if I have to say.
Yeah,
If I must
that's
say.
true. Yeah, it's very
But
true.
yeah, he must have an incredible collection.
Mm,
Maybe we'll hound him for some photos or something at some
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um, other ones then that I was thinking of collecting is the astromech droids. Reason being, I think R2D2 is probably up there with my top characters.
yeah.
For
I
some
mean,
reason, I don't I mean it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because well, we've spoken before. You've said before, I think, about how George Lucas wanted to tell the story of Star Wars through the eyes of the droids.
yeah,
So he does play a big part, but at the end of the day, he is just a droid.
yes, yeah,
But
yeah. I mean,
again, there are like so many awesome. They're not variants of R2D2, but the different astromech droids.
sure.
So many different colors, and now you're getting in Andor B2 EMO,
Mm.
which is a different shape altogether to what
Yeah,
we used to.
there's actually so many models of R2, R
Really?
yeah, R2 units, I think, or there's
Yeah,
R4s, R6s, R7s,
yeah,
R8s. Yeah, that's actually a really cool thing to collect. It would be all the
yeah,
astromech droids. But I think you and I talked about this a while back, and I've got a really good book that I think it was every Star Wars figure ever released up until 2015, and it was, I think, Steve Sansweet wrote the book. And when you get to the astromech section, I think it was something like 26 pages of astromech droids that have been released so far,
yeah.
since the Star Wars figures have started to come out. So
That's
that would
just
be one
so many.
hell of a challenge,
It would
and
look cool though, wouldn't
it
it?
would
It
look
would look really good
extremely
with
cool,
different,
really cool. Yeah,
yeah, just a
yeah,
shelf. I might
yeah.
even collect those loose at some point.
That's
Just
a good
because,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a really good idea, because you could have a shelf of those, couldn't you?
yeah.
And
It
I'm pretty
wouldn't
sure you
take
could
up
probably
space, like really.
no, not at all. And I'm pretty sure that at Toy Fair or something like that, they'd just have them in those tubs where you could just
Yeah,
pick out 3 or 4 at a time.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
I think I'd want them in reasonable sort of condition though,
Oh yeah,
because the
yeah.
paintwork on them. I've actually looked up for a loose R2 from
Mm.
the original collection,
Cool.
but getting one in good nick is really difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the white sticker
that's
round the
right. Yeah,
dome, or just under the dome. It just yellowed so quickly.
yeah.
And because I've obviously been looking for figures from my graded collection, and
Yeah,
even an 80 grade seems to have a slightly yellowed sticker, but they're still going for massive prices. So
really. Yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be quite a challenge when I come to picking up an R2.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, maybe that's for another time.
Yeah,
We'll see.
yeah.
Maybe
Maybe that's
maybe
sort of like a side project.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Um okay, so we'll get into the collection of the list that you've been kind enough to supply me.
Yeah, just to caveat, this is just a list of everything I picked out of the vintage collection since its launch in 2010,
Yeah.
um, of what I would consider a bounty hunter. And there's a few questionable names in there that you could argue isn't really a bounty hunter, but I kind of had to give you a fair list. You didn't want to just have like
Exactly.
10.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I did want a few.
Mm,
Now, I will get to it in a minute, but
yeah,
I'll start straight off then. In Vintage Collection 1.0, first one to collect VCO1, which is Dengar.
yeah.
Now, I've done a little bit of research. Dengar doesn't seem to be too cheap
No.
anywhere.
Do you know
So,
what the annoying thing is, Adam? I bought a graded 90% to 90% UKG Dengar about 3 months ago,
right.
and I had an unpunched Dengar VCO one that was loose, still in its card, sorry, but it wasn't graded, and I sold it. and if
Oh,
and
no.
I know, but obviously we had no idea that you were going to do this at
No,
the
no, fair enough. I
time.
mean, we were doing the podcast at the time, but
Yeah, true,
oh well.
true. I'll have to run past every figure I sell in future just in case.
Yeah, yeah. No, never mind. We'll find him again somewhere. Second one is VCO9, which is Boba Fett.
Yeah, no, this one's
Um,
quite.
go on.
I say this one's got quite a VCO9 is quite a big number of figures because you have
Yeah.
the VCO9 Vintage Collection 1.0, you
Hmm.
have the VCO9 re-release from 2.0,
Yeah.
you have the uh, Empire Strikes Back variant, the Return of the Jedi variant, the Revenge of the Jedi variant, and you have what they called it was like a silver foil racetrack edition, which was the Galactic Hunt, I think it was called. Oh my god, I can't
Right.
believe I can't remember.
Yeah.
And so there's five altogether. I mean, you can
Yeah.
kick the 2.0 version out, but yeah, and some of those go for quite a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, it's Boba Fett, isn't it? I do
Yeah. Mm.
notice a premium on him.
Yeah, the Boba
So
Fett tax, as we call it.
yeah, right. Is that a common thing in the
Oh yeah,
collecting
that's a
industry? Yeah,
collector's term.
collector's term.
If a figure comes out that's 15.99 in the vintage collection, and the next figure that is in the vintage collection that comes out is a Boba Fett, they usually add on £1 or £2 to the price because it's Boba
Yeah,
Fett and they know people are going
or
to buy
or
it.
£6, as we found out earlier with
Yeah,
this
yes,
latest
very true.
release,
Yeah,
or the
crazy.
latest two releases, isn't it? There's two new ones. Um, so yeah, as you say, I don't need all the variants. I'm only going to
No,
get one.
yeah,
Only going to get one Boba Fett. I think VCO9 anyway.
yeah, yeah,
Um, VC10 for LOM, for LOM,
yeah,
however
for
you
them.
want to say
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Haven't looked up much on him at the moment, but I believe he's quite expensive as well.
yeah. I mean, any of the low numbered vintage collection, unfortunately.
Mm.
But don't give up hope. We will
No,
put the word out.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully people will come good. Anyone viewing this podcast might be able to help me out.
Yeah,
Let me know your best places to buy these figures in the comments. If you're UK based, I can't imagine I'll be able to afford the import fees on anything outside of the UK
no,
on top of everything. Um, so VC30 is Zam Wessel.
yeah, same vessel.
I can't remember this character, but let's let's leave that for when I actually make the purchase. Where you can tell me all about that one.
Yep,
VC34 Django Fett.
yeah, nice figure.
Yeah.
I
VC.
wouldn't be surprised if that's re-released at some point.
Okay.
So that might be that you might be able to get that for quite cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there going to be a Django Fett tax, or is it purely
I,
Boba?
I don't think so, but I think a lot of people were clamoring for the re-release of that figure, so I think it will
Yeah.
sell out quite quickly.
Yeah. Um, whilst we're on the subject, as somebody who has collected them all, what are your thoughts on re-releases then?
I have mixed feelings because I don't. On the one hand, I don't collect to in terms of thinking, oh, I'm going to sell all these one day and going to be rich.
Mm.
That's not why I collect them. I collect them because I love them. Um, and I know a lot of people who missed out on these figures the first time round will be absolutely overjoyed to be able to get hold of these figures. But when there's certain figures that I've bought that I've had to pay a lot of money for,
Yeah.
I'm not going to name any. Let's say, for example, let's take the Yoda, Canadian Yoda variant that I had,
Mm,
and I'm not going to say how much I paid for it, but I paid a fair amount of money for it.
yeah.
If they were ever to re-release that, um, you know, it would basically
Drop the
the
value
value
of
of
it. Mm,
it would just plummet to nothing. Like pretty much every re-release they've done has dramatically reduced the how much that first edition figure is
right.
worth on the secondary market. And as I say, I don't have an issue with that. But you do feel a little bit disheartened when you've paid
When you've
X
just
pounds
paid
for
for,
something,
yeah,
yeah, and then but that's the nature of collecting. Unfortunately, you can't.
yeah.
You, if Hasbro think we can make money by re-releasing this,
They're
they're
gonna
not going
do
to
it.
say, "Oh, well, poor Martin, we feel
No.
really sorry for him, so we're not gonna re-release that." But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, fair
But so I
enough.
have mixed feelings on it. But
Yeah.
it's
I
fair
mean,
enough.
makes sense, like, especially with those that you pay a lot for.
Mm,
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah.
Um, where are we? VC61, but Boba Fett prototype.
Yeah, this was originally a mail away figure where you had to collect it. Well, this was how it was in the UK. You had to collect 5 proof of purchases, and you'd send them off to Hasbro, and then they'd send you back a boxed prototype Boba Fett, which was
Ah, okay.
the outfit before it was all coloured and painted for Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
It's a lovely looking figure, but it's basically Boba Fett in white.
yeah.
And they sold so poorly, or got rid of them so poorly in the UK that I've heard stories that people came across piles and piles of them in conventions for about 25-50p each. But now you're looking at not a huge amount. They're not mega rare,
No.
but they're certainly more than they were when if you'd have bought them a few years back. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Damn. Um, next one is the VC09 Boba Fett Revenge of the Jedi card that you've already
yeah,
spoken about.
yeah,
VC73 Aura Singh.
yeah.
That's a Clone Wars character?
Yeah, she first appeared in the Phantom Menace. She was watching the pod race up on top of one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
mountains, and then obviously she had not a main role, but she was in the Clone Wars quite a lot.
Mm,
She mentored Boba Fett for a while in the Clone Wars.
yeah.
Really love this
I
character.
think I remember that.
Yeah, she was
Mm.
such a good character. But then in Solo, there was a slight mention. Beckett said that he'd killed her, and over the fireplace scene, and I was like, oh, okay. She was a great character, but
Mm,
never mind. But yes, I
yeah,
love the card back for this figure more than the figure itself. I think the picture is amazing on the card back.
yeah. Yeah, cool. So yeah, moving on to to the next one, the VC exclusive 2-pack Forlom and Zuckus.
Mm,
I've spoken about this one before. I think this is going to be my holy grail based on. I think it's. I mean, it's achievable. You know, it's something it can be got. I've seen it
mm,
kicking about, but it's not
yeah.
cheap.
No, it's
Um,
certainly not the most expensive on this
no,
list, but in terms of scarceness, I haven't seen many come up recently. Let's put it that way.
no,
Um,
no.
but yes,
And I will ask you a little question about that in a
mm,
little while.
yeah,
In fact, I've got a couple of questions about that.
okay,
VCP03 Boba Fett rocket firing.
yeah. This is another mail away that you'd collect 5 proof of purchases back in the 2010 to 12
Hmm.
days,
Are
and
these
they'd
the
send you
ones?
this.
Are they the ones with the sticker then on the front? Free Boba
Yes,
Fett?
that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's the ones. Yeah. So yeah, you saw the prototype and the rocket firing Boba Fett stickers on the front of certain carded
yeah,
figures.
got you.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's VC. That's the Vintage Collection 1.0.
Yep.
There's only a few in 2.0, which are VC 206 IG11, VC 221 Fennec Shand, and the Morak version of Boba Fett VC
Yeah.
252, which I think he was out of the bounty hunting game at that
I,
point. So I'm
I think
thinking I
so
might
too.
knock that one off the list.
Mm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's an argument to be made. Fennec Shan wasn't a bounty hunter,
Yeah.
um, but I put it on there because it's probably quite an easy one to pick up.
Yeah. I've seen that one about a
Yeah,
reasonable price.
yeah,
So going back then to the VC exclusive 2-pack, this one's not like a numbered card then. Like you get a VC.
No, this was a Comic Con exclusive, not San Diego. I don't think it was a Comic Con exclusive 2-pack. And I
Yeah.
believe it was right at the beginning of the vintage collection, and it was VCPO1 and VCPO2, I believe. I'd have to
Okay.
double check that. I'm sure someone will correct me if I was wrong. And basically, it was the silver racetrack version, the foil racetrack version around the
Hmm.
outside of the card. Um, and it had 4 LOM or 4 LOM and Zuckus.
Yeah.
Now, you,
I've
you
looked closely at that card,
mm,
and it looks the names are on the wrong card, right?
that's right. And that is actually something they did on purpose, because back in the 1980s, when they released these two figures in the
Yeah.
original Kenner collection, they mistakenly put the wrong names on those cards. They did them the
Right.
wrong way around. So in the modern vintage collection, they did the same thing to kind of pay homage to that, if you like,
Yeah.
which is why the 4 LOM, what was it, VC10, was it? I think, yeah, VC10 Forlom has the correct name,
Yeah.
but the VCPO 1 or 2 has Zuckus on it, on the card for its name. So yeah, there's a
Yeah.
little story behind that. But yeah, that's a is they're a really beautiful looking card, and I'm actually quite surprised they haven't actually re-released Zuckus as
Mm.
a single card, to be quite honest with you, because it's a great looking figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject, why haven't they released Bosk yet in the vintage
Oh,
collection?
well, that was one of them I was going to get to. Like,
Yeah,
so there are a few that aren't obviously available in
mm,
the re-releases, if you like.
yeah,
IG88. We've got an
yeah.
IG11, but there's no
No,
IG88.
but they've got the
Um,
mold for IG11 now,
IG,
88.
yeah,
Yeah, so I
and
mean, yeah,
then
crazy.
yeah, Bosk and also Cad Bane.
Yeah, oh, Cad Bane would be an awesome, awesome figure if they and on
Yeah,
if they could release that. They could do it on a Boba Fett card as well.
mm,
It would look absolutely great.
yeah.
I'm sure that's got to be in the pipeline. It's
You'd
got
have
to
thought
be.
so. You'd have
Yeah,
thought so. Well, we'll wait and see on that one. I think.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's what I'm looking out for. If people can help me, that would be great. Um, I've managed to. I didn't mention the Mandalorian that I got, which is well, I did the unboxing last week
Mm.
of the first figure, and also I've got the droids Boba Fett. So you said that's despite it being a droids thing, it's still part of the vintage collection.
Yeah, I think giving it a broad brush, I think the vintage collection is basically all of the figures that Kenner released between 1977 and 1985, I want to say, for
Mm,
droids. So I think as a broad brush, that and you never know, we might see some Ewok carded figures at
mm,
some point, because they brought some Ewoks figures out. So for the cartoon series, but I think that's definitely in my mind anyway, and I haven't heard any different from anybody else. And I'm sure we'll be corrected.
yeah,
We'll hopefully, that was definitely part of the vintage collection in my eyes anyway.
yeah. So they're the ones I've got so far. The bounty hunters I have,
Yeah.
and I do have one on the way,
All right.
but it's not here with us yet. So you're
Okay.
going to have to wait until the next episode to find out which one that was and how much I paid for it and all that business.
Yeah.
I can't really remember what I paid for the droids figure. I think it was quite expensive, the Boba Fett
Uh,
tax. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, I do remember talking to you. I don't think it was much more than retail. So it's
no,
probably
it's a
about
little bit more.
16.99 or something like that,
I
seventeen
think it
ninety
was
nine.
18. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
£18.
Yeah.
Um, and the Mandalorian I managed to pick up for £10.
Nice.
Was
That's
it? So
that's
yeah,
pretty good. Yeah, that's
yeah, I
pretty
was
good.
quite pleased with that.
Yeah. So you're not going to collect the carbonized versions?
Oh well, I would like to, but well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe a
It's it.
trade off for those.
Yeah. It's I do understand. It's why do you need? It's the same figure basically,
Yeah,
but with you know, slightly metallic
yeah,
mold on
foiled
it.
for
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, that's it. Um, like I say, my overall goal is to collect this entire collection
Mm,
with, well, whilst staying under the budget that I'm going to set at some point,
yeah. Yeah.
which I think is going to be a reasonable budget.
Yeah.
But I've said before I don't want to spend mega money on it, but
No, no, no. I think you don't want to bankrupt yourself collecting. You want to
I want to
because you
enjoy
want to
it.
do it to enjoy it. Exactly. You don't want to
Exactly.
be. buying them and thinking, oh my god, how am I going to afford to do this now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, but that's my task, and that's
awesome. No,
we'll see how that goes.
it's a great. I think you're already enjoying it, and you learn so much doing it that you just
Yeah.
had no idea about before you start doing it. It's great fun.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Mm.
Um, anyway, we'll call that a day. If you liked this episode, like and subscribe. That'd be great. Leave your comments in. Obviously, I am a complete noob at this, so I'm going to need all the help I can get. um, Otherwise, we will catch you in the next one. We'll see you later.
Right.